The crystal balls are flowing in for the University of Oklahoma and a four-star wide receiver, speedy four-star wide receiver, if that. Z- The Oklahoma Sooners, the OU football program, is getting crystal balls, predictions, whatever you want to call them, for the four-star, speedy, and talented wide receiver Zion Raggins. And yeah, it looks like the Oklahoma Sooners might be taking 4, 5, 6 wide receivers in this class. Guys, it's something that we have to talk about. But before we dive into it, you know the drill. You know the drill. Go ahead, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, jump down the comments below. Guys, it really helps us out when you hit the like and you hit the subscribe button. It helps get our content out there. It tells us that you like what we're putting out. So hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and then I want you guys to tell me who you think is remaining that the Oklahoma Sooners land at the wide receiver position, because when you look at the talent and the depth that Oklahoma has currently in that room with Jalil Farouk, you have Drake Stoops, you have JJ Hester, you have LV Bunkley Shelton, you have Nick Anderson, you have Jaden Gibson, you have all these guys, Andrell Anthony, in that room. And yes, you might be losing Farouk to the draft, depending on what kind of year he has. And yes, you might be, you are losing Drake Stoops. The question, I think, is who's going to lead that wide receiver room in 2024. And in the 2024 recruiting cycle, you've taken 4 wide receivers already. So you're going to take the 4 or 5 wide receivers that you have or are going to have and add them to an already stacked wide receiver room. And you got to kind of try to understand where's everybody's place is going to be, because you've got Brennan Thompson, you have Jaquise Petaway, you have guys that are speedy. And I think now at this point, you've got to be looking for taller wide receivers. And I know we got Ivan Carrion, a 6'6" wide receiver. In my thought, though, I would think he would be more of like a flex tight end, a guy that's going to play the tight end position and the wide receiver, just depending on the matchups and things like that. So the Oklahoma Sooners got a commitment from Zion Kearney, the 4-star wide receiver, top 100 player in the country. Then they also have a commitment from, like we said, Ivan Carrion. They've got commitments from KJ Daniels, who is another speedy wide receiver. And then they've also got a commitment from Doji Ezukanema. I think I'm still saying it wrong. But when you look at those 4 and you look at how you integrate them in, I obviously am understanding there's going to be transfer portal exits this season for Oklahoma at the wide receiver position, because you can't just stack this kind of talent in that room and expect to retain all of it, because there's not enough touches for everybody to go around, which I think was the problem you saw in 2020 with that extremely talented wide receiver group, or maybe it's 2021 that Oklahoma had. And then when Lincoln Riley left, you saw some of them exit. That was the problem, right? I think there wasn't enough ball to go around to all those guys, especially in a Levy's offense where he's going to utilize the tight end a little bit more and maybe the running backs a little bit more than Lincoln Riley was. And so you look at the guys that are left on the board for Oklahoma at the wide receiver position, and they realistically probably could end up with 6. That's what we're talking about. And, the first one's Zion Raggins. The Zion Raggins has been one where originally maybe I was telling you guys, hey, this might be dying off a little bit. Oklahoma might be falling out here. At the 5'9", 150-pound wide receiver out of Gray, Georgia, who, like I said, lightning speed. This year in May ran a 10:40 100 meter. And then also in 2021 ran a 21:29 200 meter. So obviously he's doing track. And like I said, his biggest skill is going to be the speed that he has. But I want to say that I believe a lot of people are underestimating how good Zion Raggins is with the ball in his hands. He finds the holes, he finds the gaps, and that's why he was averaging 11.3 yards a carry or per offensive touch in his time in high school. And you look at it in his stats, 147 receptions for 2,203 yards and 16 receiving touchdowns. Zion Raggins is a dude that I think you have to take regardless of what else you have in that wide receiver room. And let's just say you land Zion Raggins, and one of your guys decommits. Probably you can have either Doge or KJ Daniels decommit, and you probably see KJ Daniels decommitting and going to LSU or something like that. And we're all just guessing. We haven't actually talked to these guys, and we don't know that's what they're leaning. But to be able to get out of this class with 6 wide receivers, I think that's going to be a tall task because, again, you got to keep everybody committed, keep everybody happy, and it's going to be hard for people to come into this room and go, yeah, I'm going to be a part of this gigantic class and still get a bunch of touches. I hope you guys kind of catch what I'm saying. But additionally, outside of Zion Raggins, who you've seen the crystal balls and the predictions flow in for, well, Oklahoma is in, I would say, okay position, but could be good position here in a couple weeks for a 5-star athlete in Terry Bussey, who honestly, and Hayes Fawcett over on Twitter, I think put it the best way. He might have the single best season stat line we've ever seen. In his junior season, he had 4,773 total yards on offense, 2,177 passing yards, 2,596 rushing yards, and 72 touchdowns. Absolutely incredible. 115 tackles, 5 interceptions, 4 pick sixes on the defensive side of the ball. And then on special teams, he had 3 kickoff returns for a touchdown and 1 punt return for a touchdown. So when you look at Terry Bussey, yes, I believe Oklahoma, they're recruiting him at the wide receiver position. If he ends up in this class for Oklahoma, and let's say Oklahoma makes it out with 5 or 6 wide receivers, my question is, how does that impact the 2025 class at the wide receiver position for Emmett Jones and the Oklahoma Sooners? Because you guys, if you paid attention to the 2025 class at all, I think Oklahoma is expecting to have a big year, especially at the wide receiver position. You have DeCorian Moore, the 5-star wide receiver who Oklahoma is actually in a really good position with. You've got Andrew Marsh, another 5-star wide receiver who Oklahoma feels good about. But then you've got guys that are a little closer, right? Isaiah Mosey, Jamar Mosey's son, right? He's a take because Oklahoma legacy guy. You don't not take him. And quite honestly, at one point was a 5-star wide receiver and is 5-star wide receiver talent. You already have a guy like Grayson Harris committed. So, if he sticks it out with you this entire time, you don't try to push him out, right? For a 5-star, I think you got to keep him. And then, of course, the Oklahoma guys. You got Jaden Nickens, a former, guy that was ranked a 5-star at one point, right below Isaiah Mosey at 130th in the country. Yeah, Oklahoma could have number 18, 19, and 22 when it comes to wide receivers. Jaden Nickens out of Millwood, Oklahoma City, he has to be a take, right? 4-star wide receiver, in-state prospect, you have to take him. Same thing for Elijah Thomas out of Chakota, Oklahoma, who, yes, not ranked in the 247 composite yet. But Elijah Thomas is a guy that's picking up offers, he has 10 so far, from the likes of several SEC schools. Alabama, Arkansas, he's got his Oklahoma offer, he's got A&M, and then he's got some Big 12 offers, Kansas, K-State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. So the majority of his offer list is all Power 5 offers. And you can imagine as his heads into the senior season that he's only going to pick up more and he's only going to become a more prominent prospect for a lot of these schools. So, yes, the wide receiver position for Oklahoma is intriguing in 2025. And I believe that if you take 5 or 6, this could inhibit what that wide receiver class could look like. Because originally I was thinking, you take Isaiah Mosey, you have Grayson Harris, you take Elijah Thomas, you take Jaden Nickens, and you take a 5-star wide receiver, Andrew Marsh or DeCorian Moore, preferably DeCorian Moore out of Duncanville. But now it's like, what happens if, let's say, before the 2025 cycle really gets into it, let's say you get Isaiah Mosey, Jaden Nickens, Elijah Thomas. So you got 4 wide receivers. Do you still take a 5-star wide receiver at that point? I mean, I would think so. But remember, starting in 2025, you can only take 25 recruits in a class unless that rule changes. Again, in 2025, that rule comes back. So for the 2025 class, OU is only going to have 25 scholarships they can give out to these recruits. It's going to be hard for Oklahoma to fill other needs. That's why I think you need to take a big defensive line and I guess not really an offensive line, but a big defensive line class in this cycle because the commits that you can take are going to be lower. So, yeah, you're going to swing and miss on a couple guys. But that's kind of where Oklahoma's sitting. I want to know from you guys, do you think Oklahoma lands the 5-star athlete Terry Bussey to come to Oklahoma? Because there's rumors that he might be coming for the party in the Palace. And if he comes for the party in the Palace, I would expect that Oklahoma is going to be in really good position for him. So, guys, go ahead, jump down in the comments below. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are.